Try to go into Korthus Central Highlands, Ion. Alright, so start of the fight, we have an Eloquium and a Sucker. We don't even use deployment tactics. I don't know why we don't open with deployment tactics. Do we? I'm assuming we use it at a certain point early in the fight. It's a good question. So, everybody has mitigations here. We have Stone Skins, we have Suckers. Both of our healers, DPSing. Cleric Stance, full-time DPS. Regen on the tank. That's pretty much all he's going to get on top of Selene heals. Actually, in this case, we had Eos by accident. Mechanic goes out. Everybody... Now, okay. Let's pause here. Let's pause here. What would most healers do in this situation? Oh, thank you, Swarge. Thank you for coming by, man. I'm glad that they've been helpful to you. What would most healers do in this situation? They notice half of the party is at half health. Some people are a little bit higher. What would probably be the first reaction of a healer in this situation? Or of both healers, if they were kind of panicking because it's a lot of damage all at once? It would probably be to Medica 2 followed by a Medica, as opposed to a simple Medica 2 and let everybody tick up their HP using the dot, or using the heal over time. So you can see our healer throws out a Medica 2. We get the splashes, and we get an Indom and a Medica. That's it. With that, we are perfectly healed up, and the people who aren't will tick up to Medica. And the only reason why we have such high health after those 3 splashes, the Medica crit for 4,600. But that healer was calculating it as if that Medica was not going to crit. I think there may have been an Assize in there as well, just for the sake that you should be using it pretty often. But this heal was calculated to the point where the only reason we have so much health right now is because Medica 1 crit. It was calculated that we would probably have about 9,000, 10,000 health, and Medica 2 would take care of the rest. And then Embrace would take care of the rest from Eos or Selene. And then immediately, we're all fine on health. 1 Cure 1 on the tank, immediately back to DPS. Broils. Our Scholar has not stopped DPSing pretty much, other than that 1 Indom. Still DPSing. Still DPSing. Still DPSing. 1 Medica 2 again, to refresh the one that was about to wear off. That's it. Look at our health. What would most healers do, seeing that people's health is so low going into this phase? They would probably pop an extra heal. But that's not necessary, because we have the Medica 2, we have the Embraces, and if we need that 1 Medica or Sucker or something before the next one, we only need one of them. We don't need both healers prepping heals on everyone. So let's go forward again, see what the next heal that comes out is. A Sucker. That's it. 1 Cure 1 on the main tank. Another Cure 1 for the next auto on the main tank. Scholar still DPSing. Cure 2 on the main tank. Look at that. We are still at half health. We get 1 Medica 2 timed. We have 3 seconds left on the Medica 2 when that hits. But that's all we need. It was refreshing our hot. Nothing else is needed right now. There's no need for any extra heal. There's also a timed Sucker for the next cleave. Hey, Zekim, welcome back, man. And hey, True Noir, welcome to the stream. Thank you for coming by. All of those heals were perfectly timed, so we wouldn't need a single extra heal. And to leave time open to do the mechanic and not have to worry about anything. Scholar, full-time DPSing. Cure 1s on the main tank, that's it. 1 Cure 3. 1 Cure 3. That's all we had there was 1 Cure 3 and our Medica 2 ticks. Now, in this case, we also have Whispering Dawn. That's actually abnormal. We usually don't have Whispering Dawn at this point in the fight because we're usually using Selene. All right, Etro. Feel free to ask. I'm going through a little bit of an explanation here for like looking at fights and sort of analyzing how much healing is actually needed. But feel free to ask and I'll do my best to get to it. And that's it. Then just Cure 1 on the main tank. Basically 1 Cure 1 per auto, since the boss can crit really hard. 1 Cure 2 here, just to get topped off. And look, we are all sitting at half health with a Medica 2 and a Whispering Dawn. No AoE heals go out. Not a single AoE heal has gone out since that second cleave, because we had a Medica 2 and we had Whispering Dawn, and we have a Fairy that's healing us up to full. There's no need for an extra AoE heal here, because at that point, it's going to be overhealing. Now, White Mage, still solo healing right here. Puts a regen up on both tanks, pretty much alternates Cure 1s and Cure 2s using whatever procs they get. Look, we're all missing a little bit of health. No need for an AoE heal. No need for it. Do the mechanic. Scholar throws up a single Eloquium. One Eloquium. Oh, and also, okay, so they use deployment tactics here. I don't know what the cooldown on deployment tactics is. Did one Eloquium, deployment tactics, full DPS. White Mage solo healing. Both tanks convalescence, spamming cure, alternating cure 1s on both the tanks. Not spamming cure 2s, even though they seem to be taking pretty big damage here. Still cure 1s, even after both cleaves hit. Cure 1, cure 1, cure 1, cure 1. It's all about control. Again, we just took a bunch of raid damage. No Medica 2. We don't need it because we're not going to die from this AoE damage. Still DPSing. Scholar's still DPSing, by the way. In fact, he has Dissipation up right now, I just noticed. Benediction on the Dark Knight. Healed in the full through Living Dead. A Medica 2 and a Sucker going into this phase. Let's see how much healing there is in this phase after that Medica 2 and that Sucker. Okay, I see the Scholar DPSing. 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 Like, there's nothing to stop. There's no reason. He's just casting Miasmas or something, or he's running around Miasma 2ing. Okay, so big tank busters. A Cure 1. There's a Divine Seal Medica 2. Scholar is still DPSing. I'm just looking at it. There's regens on each of the tank, and there's a Medica 2. At this point, White Mage conserving MP could be DPSing, but instead conserving MP for the last phase. A fair thing to do. This is one of those situations where you know you're going to need the MP going into the next phase. It's been calculated at this point. Throwing out a few stone 1s to slow the enemies here and there, but still maintaining their job. Tank busters are out, still spamming stone 1 because guess what? Now those tank busters are done. Tanks aren't taking any more damage. There's no reason to stop and cure 1 or cure 2 each of them. A single Medica 2. Stone 1s to slow. I mean, Miu can make a guy too, because Miu does the same things. Like, Miu is just as controlled. Miu could just as easily point out the very same things, because he is just as controlled. We're all low. Okay, so now we know big damage is coming. This is not a situation where you can fuck around without heals. A Medica, a Sucker, and we still have our Medica 2 ticks going. But that's all we had. A pre-time Medica 2 to refresh the hot right after the big damage. No other heals. Scholar, by the way, still DPS. Scholar still DPSing. Pre-timed Medica for the splashes. A cure on the main tank. And a Sucker for the next mechanic. And a single Physic. I don't even know where that Physic went. I think it went to the tank to cover for the Medica 1 that came afterwards. Want to be topped off for this mechanic, right? We get hit by one Sluice. I think we get hit by an Assize here. So there's an Assize, and then we had the pre-Medica 2, and now I pop Mantra. Holy moly. Well, I'm going to need to pause this. It's like Scholar still DPSing. Ezen, welcome back for the second month in a row, my man. Thank you for coming by, and welcome back to the Happy Army for the second month in a row. I appreciate the support, my friend. Hey, thank you for coming by. Everybody get some Spammerino. Secret to healing is not healing. You'll see a change that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Hey, Bubble Pop, welcome to the stream. All right, let me cover this thing right here with Etro. My static is broken down because the healers needed to be replaced, which caused the DPS to leave because they cannot be bothered to wait around, so we pretty much have to reassemble the entire static. So I joined a static looking for a warrior, while the leader recruited more people with the static I joined were really good. It was their first time in A1, and after 2 runs, we had the whole fight down to enrage for 20%, and they asked me to join permanently, but the leader of my current static begged me to stay because they get on really well and play well together, but do I wait weeks to rebuild the static and stay with him, or go with this new group who are friendly and could... That is a tough situation. I'd say go with the friend. I'd say go with the new group, because it's what you really want. Like, if you just explain to them, it's like, listen, we know we play well together, we got along great. I don't know if I can wait weeks to raid again. Like, I'm itching to raid. I'm itching to get into Savage. Clear 1. Start getting my 210 loot. It's nothing against you guys, just that situation left a sour taste in my mouth, and I would really like to play with this new group of people. I got it, Etro. I'd say go with the new group, because it fits what you desire out of the game, ultimately. And just try to leave it on friendly terms. Alright, let's get back into talking about the healing here. Alright, splashes. Splashes. We have a Medica 2. That's it. Cure wanting the tank. A sucker. Another one more Medica. Still, look at the... Just get how little overhealing there is. Every heal is calculated. Because the damage is calculated. The fight is the same every time. Minus a few things like who gets targeted by what mechanic. The damage is still the same after every fight. AoE damage, guess what? We had a sucker beforehand. We had a sucker afterwards. None of the biggest thing... Okay, so the biggest thing about these suckers... The biggest thing about these suckers... You know how people talk about using sucker before a mechanic comes out to mitigate damage? These suckers not only come out before big damage comes on the raid, but they happen after the raid just took damage as well. So they get 100% of their healing potency without any overhealing. Dragoons are really strong. Unless he all of a sudden like dies or turns into a shitter professor, you're not gonna beat him. If he's playing the job right, yeah, they're naturally stronger, especially with your Skogul. But that is so important. The sucker, they didn't just sucker at full health to get ready for a mechanic. They suckered after a previous mechanic to make sure that the sucker heal was 100% efficient, and there was nothing lost in the process. Also, it's worth mentioning, neither of the healers can DPS right now because they have a DPS down debuff. And then just let the Medica 2 do the rest. Occasionally, you might need Indomitability. Like, I think our Scholar got grabbed here, so we have a Medica 2 going, we have a Medica going, and we have a Cure 2 on the tank. That was a little bit of overhealing. I think that was just in case we got an unlucky crit in that case. There's, again, Medica 2, about to wear off, refreshes it for the mechanic. And guess what? No other healing needed right here. We had one Indomitability come from the Scholar. And the rest is Medica 2 ticking us up. We get a Sucker for the next mechanic right before we're at full health. So again, still, max efficiency on the Sucker. And now, pre-casting heals. Sucker heals the damage, prepares for the next one. 2 Suckers, a Medica, and a Medica 2 to refresh. All it took. 4 spells, 2 across each one, instead of a Medica 2 followed by a Medica, followed by a Medica, with a Sucker and an Indom in there. With all of that extra, all those extra cooldowns, everything extra just wasted. Now, I'm sure I can't see things like of course, something you have to keep in mind, I have effects turned off, so there are Sacred Soils going down for big mechanics, Fey Wind coming out from the Scholar, or Whispering Dawn coming out like in the earlier phases, all that stuff. I don't know if they ever did use emergency tactics, to be honest. I don't know that we ever had an emergency. I always top DPS my group that has a monk and an in. Is that normal? If you're playing right, yeah, that's pretty normal. If you're playing correctly as a black mage, and you're not losing any casts and you're minimizing your movement while the melee DPS are busy doing mechanics that might cause them to lose DPS, yeah, that's not abnormal. Black mage is in a really good spot right now. I'm happy with black mage DPS. After seeing some really good black mages play with it, I'm a pretty fan. No, we beat it twice. We beat it on Monday before the weapons came out, Gav, and then this was our second clear that we had on Tuesday. So we've beaten A3 twice at this point. Once last week, once this week. On A4 Savage for this week currently. Did he? He used deployment tactics. I don't know if he used emergency tactics. I'd have to go back and look. Alright, so we just took big raid-wide damage. No, you don't need effects for that. The basic thing with soils, everyone stands in them. You don't need effects to be turned on because everyone is standing in a soil. No, we're not going to stream A4. I just be like, and besides, it shows up on your buff bar. You don't need to visibly see it when it pops up on your buff bar. There's no need for it. Everyone will always be standing in the right spot for a soil. And it will always be placed in the correct spot. Of course, if you have a situation for, if you have a situation where, like, a scholar is placing them sort of in poor places, just, like, placing them on themselves and being like, guys, gather under me for soil, that's not correct. Yeah, I will blind him, eventually. I don't know, Aragorn. I've never raided with a summoner, so I can't say. Alright, so, we had the post sucker, we had the Medica 2 ticking up HP. Now at this point, healers can still not DPS because they have a debuff, right? It's just not getting beat this week, Rob. Most likely not getting beat this week. So Stone Skin coming out. Now, I want to point something out. This is not like Final Coil, where almost every tank buster mechanic, you had to Stone Skin the main tank, and you had to Eloquium the main tank. For the most part in Savage, proper use of cooldowns will be sufficient, as long as they are topped off. And if there's anything wrong, if a cooldown's missing, then you have the option for Stone Skin and Eloquium. So, Stone Skinning, I believe the off tank right here. The off tank is going to be tanking a tank buster right there. That tether, it's a tank buster. Also, looks like, I think that's still his sucker. I don't think that's an Eloquium. I think that's the sucker from the post phase before. And that's it. He also has a cooldown running. He has an Inner Beast running. Drops down to 7,000 health. But other than that, we do the mechanic. That's the only damage that came out. Guess what? Regen on him, leave him alone. He fell to 7,000 health. No reason to waste a single heal on him. No reason. He's not going to take any damage after that tank buster. Let Regen and the Fairy take care of the rest. There's no reason to waste any more MP than even that Regen. And because the healers can't be DPSing right now, they're mostly focusing on healing. Tank buster. Of course, there is a mechanic, another mechanic going out here where the healers are taking care of Asunas. That's a pretty standard thing. Or in this case, you can see the Scholar casting leeches. But still, only tank damage. Nothing other than tank damage going out here. Oh, by the way, damage debuff wore off. Guess what the Scholar's doing? I want you to observe what the Scholar did as soon as the DPS debuff wore off. What was the first thing the Scholar did as soon as he could do damage again? What was the first thing he could do? I want to hear you guys say it. What was that? Come on. I know there's a Twitch delay, but I know someone that can see what he's doing right now. There's a very obvious buff in there describing what he is doing right now as soon as his DPS debuff wore off. He's DPSing. Cleric stance. Cleric stance immediately. Tried to be some. He doesn't have to try. Those things hurt. He switched to Summoner. There we go. And, very observant, he popped a Mind Potion, Grindy. Popped a Mind Potion. Close, but he popped a Mind Potion. You know, Mind, Cleric Stance switches Mind within. The standard stuff. No problem, Igna. No problem at all, man. That's what we do here. That's what we do here in the community. Alright, so. Moving forward again. Talking about the healer duties. DPSing. Other healer. Now, there is raid damage here. But not a whole lot of it. We all get together. I throw a mantra out. We got Medica 2 ticking up. I think there was an Indom in there, and we get a sucker. Yeah. Thank you, Taste My Rainbow. Thank you for the follow. Now, I almost shit my pants right there. I'm not gonna lie. We got Medica 2. We had a sucker immediately after. Let the Medica 2 do the rest of the work. I think there was an extra Indom in there. I'm not sure. I can do the breakdown for A1. I did a similar breakdown for A1 the other day. Same deal. Sucker while we're still missing a little bit of health. Deal with the next mechanic. Nothing too fancy. A size, and we're good to go. The Medica 2. The one Medica, a Medica and an Indom. All it took. Medica 2 for the hot. That hot, specifically, splash, splash, splash. I think they did a pretty good job at presenting it. I feel as if I wasn't too impressed, but I wasn't as let down as I was from the presentations for Water Mop. Now, okay, one big thing I want to talk about here. What's one thing that's happening here as you're watching us do this group that, you know, may not happen in every group? Thank you, I can't read it because it's kind of the color. Juke, Dr. Herox, Lieutenant Joe Bob, and Tequila Wolf. Thank you for the follows. Also, Guest 2256. It's not telling me on my... also, Harlegorl, Rayloids, Russ, Roysh. Thank you for the follow. The big thing is people aren't taking extra damage from mechanics that they should be avoiding properly. This is probably the biggest thing that doesn't just set apart healers, but sets apart groups. Is that a lot of groups will have an issue where you have players that may take extra damage from mechanics, whether that's a poorly timed blood for blood or lack of using personal defensive cooldowns such as Shade Shift or Keen Flurry. A lack of proper cooldown usage from other jobs such as an Apocalypse Stasis from a Black Mage, or missing an eye for an eye or a virus or something along those lines. All of this is planned out. So in groups that aren't fully utilizing those tools, the healing seems a lot harder than it should. It's a big thing when it comes to progression rating is proper usage of those job utilities that you have, that are built into your job. And this is, again, all been calculated out. And that's a big difference when it comes to groups. If you have someone who's always taking extra damage because they have trouble dodging a mechanic, that's an extra heal that shouldn't need to be accounted for, because when that mechanic's done correctly, they do not take that extra damage. That then throws off your flow for the rest of the fight. And where do you go from there? Alright, so we have this here. We have the Medica 2 ticking. We have one Medica. And then it's all heals on the tank. Just let the Medica 2 do the work. That's the biggest thing I think I'm getting here. Medica 2, you don't just use Medica 2 to use Medica 2. You use Medica 2 in a controlled fashion. Because otherwise, you just end up burning through your MP. Same with Cure 3. It's been all Medicas, not Cure 3s. We haven't been stacking up for Cure 3s. It's been mostly Medicas and Medica 2s. The occasional Sucker and the occasional Indom when needed. Which, by the way, is one of my favorite new Scholar abilities. Because they're scared. They're scared that you'll never clear it. I'm sure there was an Assize in there as well. I mean, Assize is something you should be using as close to on cooldown as possible. As soon as there's like AoE damage, because the MP regen and everything's so good. This is Savage footage, Randy. No, this one doesn't have a nerd scream because this was our second kill, Gazal. This is the footage from us killing it a second time. Tuesday. This was Tuesday's kill, not Monday's kill. You get... Fucking Rochelle dies. I forgot that happens here. It doesn't matter. He takes the tank buster like a champ. Your tank's not supposed to be dead here. It's such a hard point to nail home. Yeah, we beat it on Monday, Randy. Yeah, the White Mage has been using Shroud the whole time. We beat it, we were World 6th on A3. Elysium Group 1 was World 1st. Elysium Group 2 is World 6th. Hey, Matt, welcome to the stream. Thank you for coming by. Hey. Thank you for coming by, man. It's so hard to, like, ingrain these lessons into people's head, though. Into people's heads. Because ultimately, it comes down to a learning experience. You can sit down, you can have a White Mage sit down and tell someone, hey, listen. In this fight, at this exact moment, I cast one Medica 2, a Medica, and then the Scholar uses one Indom, one Sucker. That will not translate to success in the actual fight. Because in the moment that they're doing those heals, guess what? In their head, those people aren't saying... Oh, I'm supposed to cast exactly one Medica 2, one Medica. The Scholar's supposed to provide an Indom and a Sucker. And then something goes wrong and you did the Medica 2, and the other Scholar maybe didn't do the Indom. And you're like, well, what the fuck? We were missing the Indom.